Gentlemen, thanks both for your time. Let's start with you, Peter. So this speech from Anthony Albanese, he says Scott Morrison's close relationship with Donald Trump has damaged the relation with the US. Isn't the jury at the very least still out on this until we see how the transition goes? How can this be decreed already?
No, g'day Tom, g'day Andrew. Look, I think in footy you always try and play the ball, not the man. And that goes in foreign policy as well. And on this one, I think Albo is well within his rights to give Morrison a very strong hip and shoulder, to extend that metaphor, because Morrison has failed on this point. It's important to get a good personal relationship and an amiable relationship with our most important ally, but you can't cross the line. And Morrison failed to call out Trump and his incitement of a mob, an insurrection, that goes to the heart of attacking US democracy. Every other world leader has spoken up. Macron, Boris Johnson in the UK. Beyond politics, it's not about politics, it's about democratic leaders standing up and calling out what is right and what is wrong. And Morrison failed to do that in the strongest possible terms.
He did call out the overall act and so on. He didn't name Donald Trump, but I wanted to take you to this. The incoming US National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, the person that will be a huge influence on Joe Biden, tweeted just last month the US would always stand with Australia. That doesn't seem like a damaged relationship.
Well, that's good that Jake Sullivan said that, and it's fantastic that the Biden administration is showing us such a positive face in respect to getting off to a good start with Australia, who they consider to be their strong ally and friend. Even John Howard, in his close relationship with George W. Bush, knew not to cross the line and make it partisan. You know, I was very critical of Scott Morrison when he got up on the stage at a MAGA, whatever you want to call it, Make America Great Again rally, a partisan political rally. And it's, as I said earlier, it's all very well to have the best possible relationship with your counterpart, with the Prime Minister and the President. Make it as amiable, as friendly as possible. Macron, the French President, put out on a big military parade for Trump when he visited. But there are certain red lines that you don't cross. And what I found curious is to why Scott Morrison did not, like Boris Johnson, like President Macron, like Angela Merkel, like all the other Democratic leaders, call out Donald Trump for his direct actions in undermining the US Republic and US democracy. That should have been done, and that was a failure of leadership by Scott Morrison.
Andrew Wallace, what about, let's pick out two of those elements. The rally at Ohio during that Scott Morrison visit, which clearly appeared to sort of veer into political territory well and truly, and also what happened at the Capitol and much less direct criticism from Scott Morrison. What did you make of those two decisions from the Prime Minister?
Well, the Prime Minister is well within his rights to support the US relationship both with Trump and with the administration and the American people. The relationship between the United States and Australia is one that's endured over 100 years, and it's too important to play cheap political points with, and that's what Anthony Albanese is doing today. Anthony Albanese is suffering from relevance deprivation syndrome. He's jumping up and down saying, look at me, don't forget me, don't forget me. The reality is that Anthony Albanese is walking the political green mile, and this is his way of trying to get attention back onto him as being the leader, as opposed to Jim Chalmers and Tanya Plibersek circling above him.
Let's go specifically then. Is there a precedent you can name, and was it a mistake, when Scott Morrison went to the US and attended what amounted to a campaign rally?
Look, I can't point to a precedent, Tom. That doesn't mean it hasn't been done. There is a very well. I think that there's been a very close relationship between the Australian government and the US government for many years. I don't believe, and that relationship is far bigger and far more important than whoever is sitting as Prime Minister or President of the day in both those respective countries.
So if a Labor Prime Minister in the future attended a campaign rally for Joe Biden, would that be fair enough too?
Let me say this. Whoever sits in the White House or as Prime Minister of Australia they are both respective custodians of this long and established relationship. And quite frankly, Anthony Albanese sitting on the sidelines and throwing stones and trying to turn and score political points out of the US-Australia relationship is, quite frankly, beneath Anthony Albanese. It's very disappointing.
Okay, I'll just go quickly to you, Peter, on this. So is there anything of substance Labor would have done differently with the US over the past 4 years?
In response, and I'll answer your question, Tom, but Andrew fundamentally misunderstands what has been the key ingredients of success in the Australia-US alliance. He gives us a couple of talking points, and the one that he mentioned, which is interesting, is that whether you're Republican or Democrat or Labor or Liberal, the alliance has endured, and that's because we haven't strayed across the red line into partisanship on either side of our domestic affairs. Okay, you do everything you can to have a very good relationship, whether you're a Labor Prime Minister or a Republican President like Hawke and Reagan, like Howard and Bush. But those Prime Ministers, for example, would never have got up on a stage and conducted themselves in the way that Morrison did and partake in a partisan rally. Andrew does not understand
does that
difference.
extend, Peter, to Shorten calling Trump a raving lunatic or a raving madman? Does it extend to that?
Point that political leaders,
yeah.
I'll answer your question. Political leaders at certain points can actually call out right and wrong. And every
So you think it's a good idea for
every world leader has actually called out Donald Trump for inciting a mob that attacked the US democracy. No other president has ever done this.
You think it's okay for an opposition leader?
It was an insurrection, okay? Let's call a spade, mate, okay? If someone did that here and attacked Canberra and attacked our Parliament House, would you stand up there and say, would you be critical or would you
Peter, you know the answer to that. We serve on the Defence Committee together. You know the answer to how I would respond to that. Of course, I would condemn any attack on the national capital.
To do the same thing.
But Tom, but Peter, you've got to be consistent. You can't say what you're saying now and come out and condone what Bill Shorten has said in the past. You can't say that that Labor hasn't overstepped the mark at a political level in its relationship or its dealings with the United States when Bill Shorten was leader, for example.
I just want to move on to one more topic before we go. Hospitality keeper, or hospo keeper as it's being called, the hospitality industry is talking about support beyond March when JobKeeper ends, when, for example, there are restrictions. So when they're affected by state laws reducing how many people they can have, Andrew Wallace, and by extension reducing what they can earn, they think some support should be there for that sort of 6-month period before vaccines can take an effect. Is that a fair enough call? Well,
Tom, thanks for the question. I know that the PM is looking at this. We've injected $251 billion into the national economy to assist us through this difficult period. We've established a pretty good track record. Most Australians would agree that the Commonwealth has done some very, very heavy lifting. And, part of the reason why this is, I think, on the front pages today is the success of a home builder. Now, this is another example of where the government has entered into and assisted a particular industry. A home builder has provided what is now a 98% increase in home buildings across the country.
Okay,
so we've demonstrated.
And I know buildings close to your heart. I'm going to jump in because we've had the Minister on that today and we're very short on time. I'm just trying to get clear as to whether you support hospo keeper. Is that a good idea? Because our political editor, Andrew Clonell, was getting word today, the PM saying no to this.
Well, like anything, Tom, it depends on where you are in the world. I met with my tourism council just prior to the Christmas holidays, and tourism on the Sunshine Coast and in many parts of Queensland is doing very well because people are holidaying here. So it's got to be proportionate, it's got to be temporary, and it's got to be targeted. That's what stood us in good stead with JobKeeper and JobSeeker.
Okay. 30 seconds, Peter.
I'll do it in 20. Yes, absolutely. There should. We've always said there should be targeted support beyond March for workers, for small businesses, for industries in the areas of Australia which are doing it especially tough. And we know that there are some parts of the economy that are recovering in certain places and doing it much and struggling much more than others, like tourism. So they shouldn't be left behind. And we actually think, as an opposition, we'll be calling on the government to tailor the response to support elements of the economy that really, really need it. And it's a bit of a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned why they wouldn't do that targeted support for those elements of the economy that need it beyond March.
All right, that was nearly 40 seconds, but it was still brief. I'll pay that. Peter, Andrew, talk again soon, gentlemen. Thank